Great. So we have our weather altimeters. We set those based on what they told us.
Skymistress 120, Manassas, ground and clearance, departure frequency 127.32, squawk 5310.
12732, squawking 5310, Sky Ventures 120.
Skymistress 120, read back correct, runway 16 left, taxi via Bravo.
16 left on Bravo, Sky Ventures 120. We're gonna taxi up here to the left.
Okay.
And if we want to go left, we use a little bit of left rudder. If we want to go right, we use a little bit of right rudder. All right, you guys ready?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
Okay, awesome. I'll have you help me with the takeoff today. So I'm gonna give Tower a call, let them know we're ready to go.
Okay.
Manassas Tower, Sky Ventures 120 is holding short, 16 left, ready for departure.
Sky Ventures 120, Manassas Tower, hold short, runway 16 left, landing traffic.
No worries, holding short, 16 left, Sky Ventures 120.
Sky Ventures 120, helicopter crosses midfield left to right, runway 16 left, clear for takeoff, fly runway heading.
Air traffic controllers relay information to pilots while they're in the air, and they're in charge of making sure that the skies stay orderly and safe.
What we're going to do is smoothly apply full power. Go ahead and hold on to the control wheel.
Helicopter, continue 68 Kilo Fox. We have the previous traffic on the runway inside. Can we do an auto rotation to 16 right on the numbers? Helicopter 8 Kilo Fox, maintain visual from company traffic. Clear for the option to include a 180 auto, runway 16 right. 16 right, clear for the option with the auto. We have visual set, maintaining visual set.
That's it. Just put the nose right on the horizon.
Okay.
Beth, don't you feel safer with an air traffic controller on the other side of the radio?
Marty, I am flying a plane here. Please be quiet. This is serious business.
Today we're going to learn all about air traffic and how to become an air traffic controller. This is STEM in 30. Hi, I'm Marty, and we're at Manassas Regional Airport with the Soaring High Explorers Camp. I've got some friends here. How's camp? Can you tell us about it?
The Chicane Camp is a 2-week camp, and it's very fun, and we get to fly airplanes.
Wow, you get to actually go up into airplanes. That is so cool.
Yes, it is.
How was your flight?
I was a little freaked out, but air traffic control guided us along the way, and so long as I listened to my instructor, we were good.
They haven't flown yet. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, just keep calm and enjoy it.
Nice. Well, you guys ready to take to the skies?
Yes.
All right, there's more to flying than just jumping in a plane and going. Why don't you take them and show them a little training?
All right, we got some training to do. Let's go.
So in our flight radar app, it shows us all the traffic, air traffic around Dulles Airport. So we can see where planes are coming from and where planes are going. Simply by touching on a plane, we can see that a plane leaving Denver that's coming to Dulles. So you can go around and play and tap and see where each plane is departing or arriving from. And do you guys want to see something really cool? All right, in the right-hand corner, you see AR. Go ahead and click on that. And then what I want you to do is hold it up, and you can see all of the flights that are coming in.
I want you guys to count out how far away American Airlines is away from Modesto. How far away is Delta Airlines from Modesto? By 3 nautical miles, right? So how do we do that?
35. So I'm landing.
Are you you doing well?
I think I'm going a little bit too low because all the red lights are on.
Tell me how you're landing it.
Yeah, to get in line with the runway, you use your feet.
Okay. Jalen, the runway is that way? Because that's a field, Jalen. Jalen, that's the sky. Are we doing a loop? Because there's the, oh, wow. Oh, wow, we're getting low. What's the, woo! That maybe wasn't as good as it could have been, was it?
Okay, I'm too high.
How do you know you're too high?
There's 4 little dots here,
Okay.
and you want to have them with 2 red and 2 white. If there are 3 white, you're a little bit too high, and if there's like 3 red, you're a little bit too low. So you want to have like that.
So you're looking at the dots on the runway up here.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so tell me what you're doing with the steering wheel here.
So it's called the yoke, and I need that so I can like either decrease, like put the plane downward or upward.
Oh, so you're pushing and pulling it.
Yes.
Okay, now what did you just do?
I put the flaps on 10 degrees so I can slow down the plane a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going a little too fast in my opinion. I might put them down 20 degrees so I slow down even more. I don't want to die.
Okay, so you pushed in to go down. Okay, so now you're 2 and 2, is that good?
Yes, that's perfect height.
Let's see. What was that?
The parking brake. My feet, work with me.
So you landed it.
Yeah.
Nice job.
And I didn't die.
That was awesome. Well, you all did a great job on the simulators, but before you take to the skies, we are going to test your knowledge in a game I call STEM It to Win It. Hello and welcome to STEM It to Win It, the game that tests your wits versus your speed and your rocket launching ability. We've got a few contestants here. Ladies, are you ready to play the game?
Yeah.
All right, we've got Zoe and Jalen and Amara. I'm going to ask a question. When you know the answer, fire your rocket. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Question number 1. Name the 4 forces of flight. All right, what's the answer?
Weight, lift, drag, and breath.
That is correct. Nice job. Are y'all ready for question number 2?
Yes.
All right. When you talk to air traffic control, what is the first thing you say? Ooh, what was it?
Your call sign.
Your call sign. Great job.
I actually got it correct.
You got it right. Nice job. Are y'all ready for your 3rd question?
Yes.
Yes.
How do you control the yaw in an aircraft? Oh, what was it?
With your rudders.
With your rudder. That is exactly right. Nice job. She is running away with this, ladies. You better get moving. All right, time for your 4th question. How does air traffic control see airplanes when they're out of eyesight? Woo, that was a tie. What did you think?
Radar.
Radar is the correct answer. Are y'all ready for the bonus round?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, using the phonetic alphabet, how do you spell STEM 30? Woo, you got it first. What is it?
Sierra, Tango, Echo, Mike, Tree, 0.
You got it, nailed it. Outstanding job. I think you are all 3 ready to go fly in an airplane. While they head back to the airport, let's check in with Beth, who's with somebody who knows all about air traffic control.
I am joined by Air Traffic Controller Jamal Teal, and you are at the Dulles Tower here in DC, correct?
Yes.
So you're watching all of these airplanes. Can you tell us what steps do you go through to allow them to take off?
First, you start off at flight data clearance delivery.
Skymister 120, Manassas clearance, departure frequency 127.32, squawk 5310.
Once you read it and the pilot reads that clearance back to you correctly, then you're going to call ground control.
Skymister 120, read back correct, runway 16 left, taxi via Bravo.
They in charge of all the taxiways, and they're going to taxi you to a runway. Once the ground controller is done with you, he'll switch you to the tower controller.
And they're watching
the runways.
Okay.
The tower controller has the runways and the airspace over top of the airport. We're usually about 5 miles around the airport.
And at that point, you've checked to make sure there's nothing, anybody around.
So that's the tower control. You're scanning your runways. You're scanning the radar.
Skymister 120, Manassas Tower, hold short, runway 16 left, landing traffic.
Once he says clear for takeoff, we'll put you on your way up in the air.
Runway 16 left, clear for takeoff, fly runway heading.
Could you tell us a little bit about what a day at work is like for you.
A day at work as an air traffic controller is first you come in, you get a weather briefing. You learn what the weather is at your airport. You learn where the weather is, where the planes are departing to. Once you get a weather briefing, if you have a tower controller, so I'll go upstairs to the tower and get another briefing of what's going on in the tower, what's going on around the airport, any closures around the airport. And then after I do that briefing, I report to the supervisor like I'm here for work. In the tower, there's 4 different positions. There's a flight data, clearance delivery. Those are people who read the clearances to the airplane. There's a ground controller, and there are also the local controller. My job is to stare out the window. You know how the teacher said you ain't gonna never learn anything staring out the window? I disagree. So that's the best thing about a tower, you have windows.
Let's check back with Marty and see how our campers' flights went.
You all are back. How were your flights?
Awesome.
All right, so you got a chance to actually talk to air traffic control. Tell us what was going on.
When we were taking off, we got to talk to the Manassas Tower.
Okay, and same thing when you were coming back in?
Yes.
Awesome. Air traffic control not only watches your airplane, but all of the airplanes in that airspace. It is a huge responsibility. Let's head back over to Beth.
You have to watch all of these planes, and people like me are flying in those planes. Tell me how important your role is in keeping people like me safe.
As an air traffic controller and working for the FAA, they basically pay you to make decisions. You're using this rule book to make the right decisions. Our job is to apply by that rule book and make sure we make the right decisions to get you and your family from point A to point B.
And it's all about talking to each other.
It's all about talking to each other, and basically as the air traffic controller, I'm giving that pilot the overall picture.
We've talked about the everyday work life of air traffic controllers, but on September 11th, 2001, that was no ordinary day. Marty and I got a chance to visit the 9/11 Museum and Memorial, and Marty got a chance to learn about how that day unfolded.
I'm at the 9/11 Memorial Museum, and I'm joined by Cheyenne Hyde. Cheyenne, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Yeah, of course.
Can we go take a look around inside?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
9/11 is shorthand for Tuesday, September 11, 2001, when 19 hijackers affiliated with Al-Qaeda decided to hijack 4 commercial airline flights and use them as weapons against highly symbolic landmarks of American life. It just starts off like a normal day because it's the first day of school, it's the mayoral primaries, and about 2 billion people witness it live because you have internet, you have radio, and then TV who are now showing their viewers what's happening here.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
So the first attack began at 8:46 a.m. when hijack flight 11 struck the north face of the North Tower. At 9:03 a.m., hijack flight 175 struck the south face of the South Tower. At 9:37 a.m., hijack flight 77 struck the outer ring of the Pentagon, which is the headquarters for the U.S. military. And then at 10:03 a.m., hijack flight United 93 was deliberately crashed into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Now that flight is kind of different because that flight was coming out of Newark, New Jersey, a very congested airport. They happened to be delayed about 45 minutes. Finally, when they're in the air, they realize that something is wrong. And then they realize that they were being hijacked. So from the air phones that are still on the planes in 2001, they call their loved ones and the authorities who are on ground, and they tell them what's happening, their situation on board. And as a result, their loved ones and the authorities are telling them what's happening here in New York City and also in Arlington, Virginia at the Pentagon. So those 40 brave men and women, they vote to stage a counterattack. They boil water in the back of the kitchenette area of the plane, and they use a food cart as a battering ram to try to gain access into the cockpit. Now, once the 4 hijackers realized that they probably would not be making it to the intended target, which we now know was the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., where Congress was in full session that morning, they decided to crash that plane into an empty field.
So the other airplanes that were in the air were starting to hear about this, right?
Yes.
And for 1 Alpha Charlie, there's some sort of a problem going on out there on the East Coast that we need to know about?
Yeah, I'll keep you advised on that in a second. Amtrak 797, Cleveland.
Yep, but from hijack flight 11, we had a flight attendant named Betty Ong who made a phone call during the hijacking to American Airline reservation agents in North Carolina, and 23 minutes she remains calm and professional as she's reporting about the situation on board the plane and also the identities of the 5 hijackers. And after that first phone call, really the FAA decided to ground all flights nationwide.
So after they grounded all the planes, what happened to all the people?
You have people who are stranded, really, people who can't get back from their vacations, really have no idea what's going on because for some of them, they were stuck on these planes for a number of hours, not maybe being able to get off, go find some hotel, but it wasn't until maybe a few hours later that they heard the news of what had just happened in New York City, and they probably now had an understanding of what their situation would be like.
So are there still effects from 9/11 being felt today?
Of course, we have the Transportation Security Administration, TSA. You have to be completely x-rayed, you have to be patted down. With carry-ons, you can't have huge amounts of liquid, you can't have weapons on board.
This has been an incredible experience, and it brings back to me where I was on 9/11. You know, I was teaching class full of 5th graders and what that day was like. How do you talk to students about this day when they weren't around?
I encourage them to talk to their parents. Ask them what their experience was on September 11th. Ask questions. It's a hard thing to understand why anybody would do this, but it's important that we learn what happened on September 11th. And coming to the museum, we have visitors, kids, school groups who come who also weren't born before 9/11, and that is how they learn, really watching and reading. So do good research and really ask the questions that you feel are necessary to ask.
Thank you so much for having us here today.
Thank you so much for coming.
I'm joined by Ellie Clark, who is an air traffic controller here at Manassas Airport. Ellie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Not a problem.
In DC, you deal with a lot of different traffic. This is a smaller airport, so can you tell us what kind of airplanes and traffic you're dealing with?
So we typically deal with smaller airplanes. So if you have a student pilot who wants to learn how to fly to go and work for the airliners later on, we have helicopter traffic here. We have air taxis here, people who don't want to fly commercial, they want to just rent an airplane and have a pilot fly them places. That's the type of traffic that we work.
And we're still within the DC area, so can you tell us about flying in and out of this area? It's a little different.
Yes, everyone that comes here has to have what's called a flight plan, a discrete beacon code.
Just 120 remain outside of SFRA, squawk 5334.
It's just a 4-digit number that they put into equipment on the aircraft. It's called a transponder, and using that information is relayed to the radar system so that we can track where they're flying in the airspace.
So you always know who they are?
Yes.
Now talk us through a landing.
So when an aircraft is close to the runway, typically, there's no one in front of them. They're first in line. We'll give them a landing clearance.
458 Mike Alpha Manassas Tower. Enter right base, runway 16 left.
So they'll come in on what's called a base leg to the final. So the final is the road in the air that goes to the runway.
Okay.
So then they make a turn, like a 90-degree turn onto that final approach, and then they come down to land. So in that, they have very little power to the aircraft, so they're basically gliding in. So we're going to make sure to tell them when, because if there's a sudden change in the wind or a gust of wind, that can affect them. And they're going to come down and they're just going to basically glide down to the runway and then land safely and roll out to exit.
When you think of runways, you not only think of the pavement, but you have to imagine a runway in the sky.
Yes, in both directions. So when they're coming into land and also when they depart. So we have to make sure that there's not going to be any conflicts because they're ideally going to be going straight.
Right.
So we have to watch out, especially for birds. We have to watch out for deer on the ground and other wildlife as well.
How does your job keep someone like me who took a Discovery flight safe when I'm flying around here?
The biggest thing that we do is just keeping aircraft separate from each other. We're going to call traffic. We're going to tell, one aircraft about another one that's close proximity.
Scavengers 120, pass behind the helicopter off to your right, then we're making right close traffic.
Sorry, we have traffic sites. We have insurance 120.
So they can make sure to see them, and then based on what that other aircraft's going to do, they can remain clear. It's like if you're on the interstate and somebody's using a turn signal. We're pointing out the turn signal.
Okay. I imagine that weather really affects small planes. So how do you, as an air traffic controller, deal with weather in this area and these smaller planes?
The big thing that we can do to help out the pilots is whenever they're taking off or landing is we tell them what the wind is doing. In addition to that, we're going to tell them about any severe weather in the area. We are going to tell them whether or not lightning has been observed, so that way they can do what they need to do to stay clear of it.
Weather plays a big role in flying, and we got a chance to talk to ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z about how meteorologists and air traffic controllers monitor the weather to keep you safe. We are at ABC in Times Square Studios, and we are joined by Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z. Ginger, thank you so much for joining us today.
So happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about how weather affects air traffic.
Oh my gosh, I fly a lot for my job, and so I'm always thinking about this. And when I was in school for meteorology, I considered getting into aviation meteorology because obviously the atmosphere is impacting your flight a lot. The jet stream, you hear the pilot saying the jet stream doing this when you're talking about turbulence. All of those are impacted by what the atmosphere is doing. Mostly though, the air traffic controllers and the meteorologists that work for the airlines have their eye constantly on where the turbulence, where the thermals, where things are popping. It's like a bird. You know, the bird's the best meteorologist, by the way. And they have to look at so many variables because that flight depends highly, your safety, your livelihood depends on what the atmosphere is doing. So they're using radar, they're using satellite. They have at every airport, there's something called an ASOS, an Automated Surface Observing System, and that's where they're capturing all of the data.
Calm, visibility 10, sky clear, below 12,000, temperature 26, 2.20, altimeter 284.
And then they also let off weather balloons right next to every airport. So that's giving you that cross section or that picture of the atmosphere right there that is so important to those forecasts.
As travelers, what should we look for forecasts if we're going to travel?
I mean, I always harp on having personal responsibility when it comes to weather. Having your phone set so that those emergency alerts are not muted and so that they actually come up on your phone, that's important. Now, the airline's going to keep you safer from that type of thing.
Right.
But when it comes to planning your trips, I think, you know, there's only so much you can do because climatologically, it's not like I don't travel because, oh, it's winter in New York and we sometimes get nor'easters. But being aware of the timing of that storm, the other thing I notice is that airlines often start to react even earlier than possibly they could. I think just respecting that. Their job is to keep you safe, and they are doing everything in their power to do so. So if it inconveniences you by a day or two on your vacation, you're alive. And remembering that is pretty important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Of course.
I'm joined by Michelle Salcido, who is an air traffic controller here at the Manassas Airport. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, when I took my Discovery flight, I had to set the altimeter and we had to know the air pressure. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
The atmospheric pressure is the force exerted by the weight of the atmosphere. It's greatly affected by air temperature and altitude. So it's important that the pilot has the exact altimeter for the current conditions because it affects the aircraft's performance and specifically their altitude.
Okay. Marty's gathered some friends and we're going to do a little experiment to demonstrate how air pressure works. You can try this in your classroom. When you all were flying, you calibrated your altimeter using barometric pressure so that you knew what your altitude was.
So we're going to create a barometer that you can use in your home or your classroom to measure the barometric pressure. And we use just a few simple supplies. We've got some little jars. We've got one big jar, which we'll use here in a little bit. We've got balloons, straws, or you can even use toothpicks, some rubber bands, and a little bit of glue or tape like we're going to be using.
All right, so the first thing you ladies need to do is cut off the top of your balloons. All right, now, next thing we're gonna do is you gotta stretch the balloon out here. You're gonna put it over the top of the jar. Okay, now take a rubber band and let's seal that on there, good.
So you're capturing the pressure inside the jar that's the same as out here in the room. That'll be important for later.
And now, take your straw, and if you want, pass me a piece of tape. We're going to tape the straw right about in the middle.
Put the end of your straw right in the middle of your balloon, in the middle of your jar, so that it hangs out over the edge. That's going to be our indicator.
All right. Now these are going to be used to measure the pressure outside, and it's going to take a little while. So
we have a demonstration here to kind of speed that up a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take another balloon and stretch it over the top of the jar. All right, so here we've got our balloon. I'm going to stretch it nice and tight right over the top. Now we are going to push down on the top of there, and something's going to happen.
now watch
Let's see what happens.
happens. So go ahead and push down.
A good push with a couple fingers.
There you go.
See what it's doing?
So you guys see what it's doing
Now
now?
pull your fingers up, push down.
Okay, so push down. So this is high pressure. This pressure is pushing down and it is raising the straw to show the higher pressure. What happens when you pull it up?
The balloon inside comes up.
You're using low pressure to lower the straw.
Yep. What we're going to do is we're going to take this back to our office, we're going to set it outside and look at it over the course of a couple of days and see how the barometric pressure changes. Should be pretty cool. Unfortunately, we are out of time for today. We hope that you tune in next time, and in the meantime, check out our archive.
And be sure to subscribe or like this channel to learn more about all things air and space.
And the next time you see an airplane, remember there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes that keep that airplane safe.
Thanks for watching. Oh, nice safe landing.